You have a lovely singing voice.
Methodology. Everybody loves methodology.
Oh, that's bad. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 544 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Paul Lee Cooley. Joining me today, thankfully, Mr. Terry Mixon. How are you?
Heidi ho, neighbor.
Are we going to start the Ned Flanders thing again?
I want to know, can we have Ned Flanders as an android? Because I would really like to have an android Ned Flanders.
No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. I put up on Twitter the other day that an idea for the horror survival game devs. You make an easy mode and you transform all of your hideous, horrible alien type creatures into zombie clowns that look like Krusty. That's easy.
That would be awesome.
That's easy mode. There, you don't want to find our scary aliens? Here, have a Krusty. Have a Krusty burger. Perfect. What have you been up to, man?
I've been sick this week, but I've still been writing. I'm probably roughly a week away from being done with Blood of Patriots. Hallelujah! I'm at 75% of the novel, and I see the ending.
Yay!
I have figured out where I'm going.
That's always a good thing.
It is a good thing. Let's see. What else is going on? The audiobook for Race to Terra is out. Yeehaw. Yay. More audiobook goodness. I got my short story idea accepted into Expanding Universe 5, so I'll be writing that as soon as I finish this novel, so that I can have the next Zag the Bounty Hunter story going on, which is good because I wanted to write that story so bad.
Yes, I know. You've been wanting to write that story for like a year.
Now, as a side affair, I wrote the original one in first person, and so I wrote the second one in first person, but I'm pondering changing it to third, because I actually, even though I started writing in first person, I think I actually prefer third person.
Controversy.
Well, I can write comfortably in both. It really depends on the story that you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, the story I'm telling, I'm not sure that I need the intimacy that first provides.
Especially if you're doing some comedy and you want some sight gags, it may be more difficult to do that. And with that character, it sounds like you're going to be doing a lot of that.
Yeah, he's very prone to that. When you've got a 2.5 meter tall Beryllian that looks like a Minotaur, basically, there's a whole lot of room for sight gags.
Yeah.
Especially when the partner is like this human waif girl that's like 14.
I think that the third person is probably a better way to go with that.
Which means that when I finally get the rights back to the first one, I'll probably convert it to third person for continuity. It's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. Let's see. Other than that, that's about it. I'm feeling mostly human again, so I'm hoping my writing speed picks up a little bit. That's all I've got.
What a slacker.
How many words have you done?
Well, I started and finished a short story and then had to cut 600 words of it, which sucked. But I think it turned out really well. I've got that. I sent that over to Scott Pond for an anthology he's doing. Last time I was with Derelict, we were getting along just fine. The only problem is right now I am behind the 8 ball on 3 different projects. So something has to give because I have a demo on Saturday. Right now, the writing is what's giving.
You know, it's perfectly okay because fighting robots is where the thing is at. I think you should stay with fighting robots.
It's more like, can I string together a couple of paychecks to be able to make up for all the income I've lost? But things are going well on that front. I guess I'll have news after we do the demo on Saturday. I'll have news next week sometime. So if I can finish up this iOS app, then I will be mostly out of the way on that project, depending on whether or not we get funded with the rover project. If the rover project gets funded, then I'm going to have a lot of code to write very, very quickly. But I will be getting money to add features. So that means it'll be a good thing. But I'm really jonesing to get back to Derelict. Really jonesing. Want to get it done. Damn it. Because I have things to tell you and show you. Oh, the wonderful sights I'll show you. Anyway.
Thank you, Pinhead.
Thank you, Pinhead. Other than that, need more sleep? That's about it.
Aren't you impressed that I got that horror reference?
Yes, very.
You should be, because that's my whole experience with that particular universe. You just happen to hit the right entry point for me.
Well, it is one of the most ominous lines in horror movie history. The way what's going on around and what you've seen, that is just a very terrifying statement. The way it is said, it's just so flat. It's wonderful. Love those lines. Anyway, so that's what is going on with me. But I have a question for you, Terry.
I have an answer.
I doubt it. Actually, I know you do, because
I've got about an hour's worth of answers.
You got somewhere in there. You asshole. I want to talk about why Klingons make your science fiction better.
It's the ridges.
It's like Ruffles. They have ridges.
Ruffles have ridges.
Yeah. So let's unwind what the hell I'm talking about. Terry, you made the mistake of saying everything goes better with Klingons.
I was saying every story could be improved by inserting Klingons into the plot.
Okay. You were being a smartass.
Sort of.
All right. Tell your story. Why you said it.
Back when I was playing D&D in the 80s, when I was in the Army, I decided that our fantasy game would be more interesting to the players if I made Klingons a non-player character race that had crashed their millennia ago, their ship long gone, their technology long gone. But the characters of the Klingons, their whole honor thing, their whole way of behaving, I thought would be excellent to add in.
Remains of their culture.
The remains of their culture were intact, but I could strip out all the parts that didn't fit with the D&D campaign and still get the characters way interested in interacting with them, because they're like all Star Trek geeks.
Okay, the reason I brought this up is twofold. The first is, when you said that about Klingons, it started running through my head. I was like, okay, what would Star Trek be without Klingons? And Klingons not being just Klingons. I'm talking about Vulcans, Romulans, etc. What would that tale be? What would that universe be like?
The Expanse?
I think it would actually be very boring with the way they had it set up. I remember somebody complaining about, I don't remember if it was Voyager or whatever. They said basically, like, by the 5th or 6th episode, they better meet some alien races that can talk rather than just, space phenomena, because it didn't have story to it and it caused issues. What's cool about Klingons is they've become iconic because they're the constant, in the original Star Trek, they were the constant problem, the constant troublemakers. And they were the ones I looked forward to seeing. That and the Romulan warbirds, birds of war, whatever. Is that what they were called?
Yes, they were warbirds.
Warbirds, birds of, or bird of prey. I don't remember what it was called. Anyway, I love that ship. Those were cool back in the olden days. But the reason I bring this up is the culture part. That what TNG turned them into was something so much more than the original Klingons. They started adding their own language. They changed the way they look. They changed all those pieces.
They changed the way they act,
and changed the way they act.
This is important because it actually bears back into the whole adding them in. I added in the next generation Klingons. They came along in, gosh, I want to say 87, thereaboutish, was when Star Trek: The Next Generation came around. And so it was at the end of my time in the Army. And so I had the choice of using the new Klingons or the old Klingons. The old Klingons were treacherous, stab you in the back, slime balls. Basically, no honor among them.
Yeah.
And the new ones were all about honor. And if you watch closely, the Romulans switch places. In the old series, the Romulans are the ones with all the honor. And in the Next Generation, they were stabby in the backy kinds.
Right.
So they
wanted to make them more as a foil to the Vulcans because of the same people, which works. And then, of course, you have the Cardassians. Let's not even go there. And we're not.
I'm sorry, not Cardassians. I'm going to have to correct you. It's not the Kardashians. It's the Cardassians.
I said Cardassians.
I'm pretty sure there was an H in there.
I was going to make the joke about the fact that I was not talking about Kardashians, but you ruined it.
Could there be a Cardassian named Kim? That's what I want to know.
Why the hell not?
Kim the Cardassian.
I wonder if you go through all the credits of TNG, if you will ever find something like that. That would be absolutely hilarious. Instead of uncredited or whatever else at IMDb, it shows up as Kim Kardashian. That would be absolutely great. And then everybody wondering if it was a typo. But I digress. For fantasy, for a long-running space opera or something along those lines, that kind of interaction with a different race that has those customs that are familiar enough to human but have been kind of twisted a little bit or are an exaggeration of a cultural trait that may exist here on Earth is a very fascinating way to do this, because it's kind of easy to go and just kind of pick and choose. Like you may pick and choose the spirituality of the druids and then match it with a spacefaring race. There's all sorts of things you can do with that, with the interplay with culture, but be they allies or be they antagonists or be they just neutral people you bump up against occasionally. Having that cultural piece to it that is so different from the characters who you are following gives a really good foil to everything that's going on, because it also gives you a way to play with miscommunication and unintended consequences.
It absolutely does. If you've got a different species that nonetheless is so similar to your own that you fall into the trap of thinking they're just humans with little ridges on their heads, then you're going to fall into the trap that thinking that their society is like yours, and you're going to end up going ahead and having them hunt you down and kill you.
Exactly.
I think have sullied my honor.
I think in Babylon,
my house.
If I remember correctly, in Babylon 5, one race almost went extinct. I'm not even going to talk about this because they made the mistake of interpreting a new alien race's gesture of honor and peace by opening their gun ports to be an attack. Because nobody was talking. Because that's not the way they do things in that culture. And that causes pretty crazy results.
Star Trek The Next Generation had an episode that was very much like that, where they ran into people that all they could communicate with were sayings. Basically, iconic sayings from their own past.
At the wall?
Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember the quote.
I can't remember any of the quotes.
Jalala at the wall when the walls fell.
Jalala when the walls fell.
Yeah, whatever.
And that has a specific meaning. And only if you know the history of their world do you even have a clue of pulling a context out of that.
Right. And the way that sounded to me is it's from epic poetry. Is what it sounded like to me. Like maybe their history, their entire language, their entire culture is really based on that. Is everything is storytelling, which is such a cool idea. It's such a cool idea to have that.
But the Star Trek The Next Generation folks, they basically banged their heads into the walls because they had no frame of reference, no hope of understanding it. And the whole thrust of that episode was they kidnapped Jean-Luc Picard, and the alien captain took him down to the planet, and they put themselves in danger so he could give context to what was happening. Even though it cost him his life, it enabled Picard to communicate with them.
And that's the
honor was satisfied.
And that's the other reason why I think it was epic poetry, because basically they were supposed to take the place of two heroes from their history.
Darmok and Jalad?
Yeah, the two chiefs of whatever tribes they were basically fighting together to a common threat. That's how I always interpreted it. Which is also an interesting part, because we'll never know. Because they never explained that ever again. They never talked about it again.
Yeah, the phrase is Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Okay.
And
I'm sure that means something.
and such when the walls fell. So
yeah, that was a different.
Yeah, they never explain it. They never explain it. And the cool part is they don't have to. In Space Above and Beyond, they're fighting these things that wear armor. So we never see what they really look like. At least I don't remember ever seeing what they really look like. But there's an episode where an explosion happens or something, and he ends up landing right next to one of these guys. And basically they save each other. And then they just kind of walk away from one another. And then 5 minutes later in the episode, the human ends up killing him because they're back to fighting. That was such a cool moment because it just wraps all of that around there, that basically there's honor on the battlefield, but the battle still goes on. It was kind of chilling because it showed that these nameless things had that sense. They couldn't communicate to one another. They weren't even trying, wouldn't even bother. But the fact is, there was a mutual understanding between the two cultures in that instance, at least by two people or two sentient beings. There we go. We use that term. That was a cool moment. I really like that. Those kinds of things bring so much detail to cultures, and it's especially important if your folks are having first contact, in whatever means that is, however that may be.
The other line was Shaka, when the walls fell.
There we go. Shaka, when the walls fell.
And basically, I remember the meaning of that one is basically Shaka screwed up. The walls came down and Shaka blew it.
Shaka screwed up and they still fought.
Well, I don't know about the fighting, but whatever he was supposed to do, he didn't do it.
Yeah, didn't do it right.
It was a line that meant failure. If my memory serves. But you're talking first contact. I'm trying to remember now. There was a book that I read dealing with first contact here in the system. And the title of it is just skipping around the edge of my memory. But basically, NASA had been aware that there was a spaceship in the system since the 60s. It could see it out in the asteroid belt, but they couldn't get to it. It never responded to any signals. It just sat there. So they finally got the technology to send out a team, including a linguist, to go. The book was titled Fluency. That's what it was. And they sent out a linguist with the thing to try to make head or tail of what they were saying, because they were pretty sure it was a derelict. It was not. And the failure in communications between what they found there and the human beings played a huge role in that story, trying to understand something that was so foreign and so alien on both sides.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that part that you just said. It is the rationale for behavior, because basically the humans are thinking they're explorers, and obviously the aliens aboard would think they're being attacked or boarded or whatever else you might think. So there could be a variety of things like that, or they've laid this trap that's been sitting there for so many millennia.
Have you seen Contact?
Oh, of course.
It's another one of those first contact movies where communication is not exactly guaranteed, or you're not even at the end, you're still not quite sure you've got it.
I found that movie and that story to be awesome in a lot of ways, because I think it's about it is about faith and trying to store up faith. And it has nothing to do with religion. That's not what I'm talking about when I say faith. She was basically going to be the messenger and to prep the world, so to speak, that maybe in 10 years they'd show up, or maybe something else would happen. And then they could basically look back at that and go, oh shit, that was real. At the very least, it was to send a message that so many hours of static that was recorded. Oh my God, I'm giving away spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie, go fucking watch it. Anyway, I like to think about what the other book would be if he were to write a sequel to it. What would the sequel be like?
Contact is totally not the movie I was thinking of.
What movie are you thinking? I'm talking about Carl Sagan's Contact. What movie are you talking about?
There was another one that had Amy Schumer and Jeremy Renner in it.
Arrival.
Arrival is the one I was actually thinking of. But Contact also bears relevance to that.
Yeah. Communication, big. Well, yeah, Arrival was all about. In fact, when you said linguist, I thought you were going to talk about Arrival.
I gave the wrong title. My apologies.
Anyway, yeah, and that is important. That is extremely important. It makes things very interesting. And the reason why I brought that up is that not only does that provide the foil, but also gives you an example of how to deal with antagonists in general. But if you're laying down space opera, if you're laying down fantasy, if you're trying to do those kinds of worlds, I think it's important to have some cultural differences.
All too often in fantasy novels, or even role playing, you don't play up the difficulty of communication enough, the differences in the societies enough. All too often, it's an elf and a dwarf walk into a bar, and they can talk, and there's no real conflict of character, conflict of culture in that. If you had a character that was an elf and a dwarf that could not speak to one another, that did not speak Elvish or Dwarvish or even Common, that would be a much more interesting story, I think.
13th Warrior, Michael Crichton.
I saw the movie.
Yeah. I think the book is called Eaters of the Dead. I saw the movie and read the book. I like the movie better. Anyway, go see that one too, because this guy gets himself in all sorts of trouble and is just stuck. Where is he from? He's from somewhere in the Middle East. I can't remember where he comes from.
It was Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, I know, but I mean the character.
And I don't know where he came from. It was a sultanate of some kind.
Yeah, it was a sultan of some kind. He was a Muslim. So he ends up hanging out with these goddamn Vikings to go handle this problem because the soothsayer ordained he needed to be there. He doesn't speak their language, doesn't know their customs. They're disgusting to him for good reason. But
hard to argue the point.
He has no idea their language. And so while they're making this trek to go where they're going and do what they're doing, he slowly learns their language. He slowly learns their customs. He pays attention to those things. And through him, we learn about those people and that civilization.
And through his own actions, he becomes worthy to join their ranks.
Yeah. And their history. I think that's the bigger part of it.
Another movie that would be very similar to that would be Shogun, where you've got the guy who is not from Japan becoming eventually a samurai. He has to learn their language. He has to learn their customs. He has to make a place for himself in a world that's pretty hostile to him.
Right. And that makes things very interesting. Scott Sigler's GFL, you've got I would say is kind of the reverse. You've got somebody who thinks they know everything, is a complete and total shithead, asshole, racist, everything that you could possibly imagine, and then has to adapt to fitting in with a completely different culture, which is not like that. And it makes the first three books very interesting because he has a tendency to slip up in the worst possible ways and offend somebody in some way because it doesn't understand all the cultures. And that's a big deal in that series of books. It's about cooperation. It's about communication. You can't have a team sport like that. That doesn't have communication, doesn't have teamwork. And I would argue you can't have a civilization either. You have to have some kind of shared goal to have a society.
Reading one of Glenn Stewart's books, he's got a series, The Duchy of Terra is part of that series. I'm not sure if that's the name of the series. One of the races in there, even though they can communicate through what's basically a universal translator, their own communication, they can't hide their emotions because the colors of their skin changes with their emotions. So they have to adjust their society to the fact that, you're not going to get away with lying about anything. How's that going to change a society of people and dealing with the implications thereof?
Yeah, and there have been plenty of dystopia novels about that too. The fact there's no way to lie. There's
A
no way.
telepath.
Yeah, it's basically everybody knows what you're thinking at all times. That's terrifying.
There was a book that I read. I can't remember if it was Amanda Quick, or Amanda Quick wrote under 3 different names, depending on where in the timeline she was writing. So when I say Amanda Quick, it could have been any of the pen names. I don't remember which one, but there was a book called White Lies. And the main character in this book could tell if someone was lying to her. And it had implications throughout the entire story, because it's basically a mystery. How do you write a mystery around someone that if they concentrate on it, they know if you're telling them the truth?
Because the truth isn't always the truth.
It was a fun book. I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, you see 5 different people see somebody get robbed, and they all get a good look at the robber. How many of them give the same physical description? None. Because everybody remembers it differently. And the longer you wait from that second that crime happens, the more everything diverges. And that's just the way it is. That's the way humans are. So, yeah, that would be really interesting too.
She wrote this under Jane Ann Krentz, Jayne. But yeah, she writes Victorian era stuff, modern day, and kind of far future stuff. And depending on which one it is which pen name she uses. Same writer. It's
Gotcha.
somewhat confusing. Just should have stuck with one name, damn it.
Easily confused. Yes, but you know why that is. You know
why is it?
Look, Mr. Indy, back in the olden days, when there were things as contracts, they wouldn't want you to write a different kind of book using your main name. They would want you to use a pen name.
That's
for
true.
a different kind of book. So that happened. That happens. There's still a lot of folks trapped in that, and you know that.
Less every day.
Yeah, that's either by death or the rights expiring.
That's either by death or a publisher cutting people that aren't bestsellers loose.
Well, that too, but they won't get the rights back to those books.
I'm referring to the fact that fewer people are being trapped into the the traditional side.
Yes,
where they're forced to use pen names if they want to write more than one book a year.
Yeah, because that's attitude started to change, or has changed quite a bit. But I'm sure there are still some folks out there like,
get off my publishing lawn.
What do you mean you're going to write a romance as Paul E. Cooley? Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yes, but there is a beheading. That should be your answer.
Romancing the monsters. Oh my God.
It's like writing a romance where it's Gomez and God, what was his wife's name?
Lucretia?
Something like that, yeah.
Morticia.
That's it. Gomez and Morticia. That should be the love story you write. Because God knows that's the love story we all need.
Oh, yes. Oh, I think that is one of the greatest romantic relationships that has ever graced TV.
I can agree with that sentiment.
I think it is such a wonderful relationship. It's weird because they're weird, but it is wholesome. It is supportive, and they're just so much in love with one another. And that is such an awesome, awesome thing. And then they surround it with all this goofiness.
The Addams Family.
Yeah, the Addams Family. It was so
How long until they rebooted?
Again, you mean?
Again and again and again. Oh, well, God. Considering that the actor passed away, you kind of do need to reboot it when the main actor goes away.
Yeah, I was actually so depressed when Raul Julia died, not just for that, obviously. I was depressed because his last fucking movie was Street Fighter. I mean, wow, what a legacy to leave behind. Oh my God, of all the fantastic movies you did, that's going to be the the last film on your repertoire. That's awful. But the real reason, besides the fact he was a fantastic actor, is I wasn't going to get to see Adam's Family 3. I actually liked those two movies. I thought they were hilarious.
I did. I like them as well.
I mean, the kid playing what's the girl's name? Shit. Little girl's name. I can't remember it. Anyway, I thought that Wednesday. I thought that actress was incredible. She was absolutely hilarious.
Are these made with real Girl Scouts?
Yeah. So deadpan.
So deadpan.
I just love that character. I love that character so much. The way they rebooted that character was just fantastic. Just fantastic. Oh God, we've wandered again. We're good at it.
We're good at it, but it's all still actually somewhat on context here.
It is still relevant because basically part of that show was they had their own subculture going on.
Yes.
The family had its own subculture going on, and that was what we were there to watch. Was that subculture clash with everything around them. That's what made it fun. So it made it interesting. I mean, that's the way some really great stories are told. They throw you in the middle of madness, and you have to figure out what normal is. Is this normal for these people? Well,
I totally want to see the Addams Family solving a murder mystery. I think that would be one of the most wackiest mysteries ever.
Oh, God. That is terrifying. Oh, that'd be hilarious. You know what? The problem with that is, though, Terry, for me as a writer, I would have so much difficulty keeping that many characters on point with a mystery. It just, there's no way. There would be squirrels everywhere.
With a book like that, I kind of think that's the point. I think
mystery isn't interesting. It's all the squirrels.
If you've got the Addams Family, your book better be about squirrels. I don't care what they're doing. You better be following the characters down whatever rabbit hole they're going down.
See, this brings up my awesome idea for a mystery non-mystery, which is they solve the mystery on page 2, but they don't realize they've solved the mystery. And so the whole book is about the crazy ways that goes off, all these tangents, everything else, wild theories, and then they all come back to what they should have done on page 2. The audience knew on page 2. I just love that. I think that would be great. Mystery told that way. If you didn't lose all the mystery diehards in the first 2 pages. But I think it's kind of a good parody. Especially the cheesy ones.
There's a series with by Tony Hillerman where he writes about Navajo policemen. I can't remember the names right off the top of my head, but Joe Leaphorn was one of them. And one of the movies that I remember seeing, the movie starts with them arriving at a burning car with a dead body in it, and a guy walking with a gun away from the thing toward them. And as the movie goes on, they become more and more certain that that guy is not responsible for it. Well, that's totally wrong. What they came across first is exactly what happened. They were dead on the money, caught him with his hand red on the weapon. But the movie was just uncovering all kinds of unrelated plots and things going on and getting a lot of other people in trouble. And then coming right back around to the beginning going, oops, sorry, this was it.
I think some of the most fun of the mysteries is the first mystery is obviously easy to solve, but something along the way derails you to where it's suddenly like, oh, there's more to this than I thought. There's a reason why this person killed this person. There has to be. And then that leads you into a whole new cesspool. So, yeah. Broaden everything out. Sometimes those squirrels are good.
Sometimes. I agree. I'm all about squirrels.
You are all about squirrels. I need to bring out the talk show equivalent of a 410 shotgun and fix this shit. People don't realize how often I have to wander around the forest of Terry's mind, taking down the rampant squirrel population.
Yes, but by now you should have a notebook filled with plot ideas.
I also have many skins of your squirrels hanging on the wall. They're tanning.
It's like a little trophy. cabinet right there of squirrels.
Paul the Plot squirrel serial killer. You need one desperately. You need someone. You need like a vulture or something hiding behind you, eating up all the detritus of your thrown away ideas.
No, I come back and I use those ideas.
I know.
I just wrote the first 500 words of a short story that I'm going to be submitting, or that I, in fact, already submitted the 500 words to the anthology, and it involves Zag the Bounty Hunter. I don't know. You remember me talking about him?
Yeah. I saw what you posted.
He's busy like trying to sneak out of his ship, and his new partner is lurking in there somewhere. And I'm treating it like it's like a mortal danger. You know, the universe is coming to an end. And then she basically lands on his ass, dropping out of the ceiling.
You're taking me with you. Yeah.
The part that I didn't write with that is him looking up and going, "What is that? And what is it doing in my ceiling?" He's been on the ship that he confiscated years ago, but he's never really found any of the smuggling holds that were in it. Oh, it's just gonna be like, "Oh, I found 4 of them already. Some of them were full." What? Yeah, there's squirrels in there.
Yes, because maybe he's holding on to a piece of cargo he didn't know about that somebody's looking for.
I have no idea what I've written the first 500 words. What's actually going to happen in this story, I haven't the slightest idea.
Oh, I'm so shocked.
That's how I write.
I'm so shocked. Not. I know it's how you write. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just giving you shit because I can.
Rock on.
All right, we splattered enough Klingons around now.
Can you ever splatter enough Klingons around?
I think the answer is yes.
This is this part where we throw our heads back and go, "Ah!" The whole Klingon death knell thing. Death scream, whatever they call it.
No, this is not that part. This is not that part. This is not that part at all. If you have a comment to send us, a complaint about something we said about Klingons, or you think that we made too much of them or whatever else, or you're coming to sue us, you can send us an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find us on Facebook at the listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. We have to thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, for making all 10 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. My God, I cannot talk today. And if you want to support the show, you can join us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to crazy exclusive content and etc., including live shows, which we need to do this month.
We do.
And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And this week's $10 donos are Andrew Smallwood, JD Barker, Veronica Jaguar, Jack F. Erickson, Kelson. People called me mad. I thank them for the compliment. I like it. Isabel Cushy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Nathan Cosby, Cheryl Winters, Tracy Bodine, Devin Lee, Drew Frustrated Screaming Bernardi. I'm sorry to hear that. Chris Winder, Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, and J.R. Handley.
Thanks very much for your support, folks.
Yes, thank you very much. And you can also find us at youtube.com/DRS podcast. I forgot that one. If you want to see our ugly mugs. Anyway, with that, Mr. Mixon, I think it's time that we sign off.
Hasta luego.
We'll see you next week, folks.